What's up, everybody? My name is Alex. I am your host here on the Swolverine podcast, as well as the co-founder and COO at Swolverine. Swolverine is an endurance athlete and active lifestyle brand. We have over 31 different products and daily health supplements, as well as performance products that are proprietary blend-free, clinically dosed, and scientifically proven effective. It's a new year, 2023. Holy hell, I can't believe it's here. But that also means that we have a new season of the Swole Friends podcast. So today I have the honor of welcoming Matt Torres, a former collegiate American football player, now CrossFit L3 full-time head coach for Brute Strength with over 8 years of experience in the sport. He's also a remote programming coach and the co-owner at CrossFit Naples, as well as the coach of over 8 CrossFit Games athletes. And no, I'm not just talking about any athletes. I'm talking about some household names that you probably know, with Matt being the leader and performance developer of athletes like Danielle Brandon, Saghafi, Dallin Pepper, Emma Cary, and more. So on this episode of Swole Friends podcast, we're not only going to get to know Matt as a human and his personal story of how he got to where he's at now, but we will also dive deep into what it takes to be an accomplished coach within the CrossFit industry. So by using the theme of developing confidence both within ourselves as leaders and coaches in the professional fitness industry, but also within the athletes that he works with, let's dig into today's material so you can be inspired, mentored, and motivated by the end of the episode. Matt, what is up?
Nice to finally get on this podcast. I know we've been trying to plan this out for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited to have you. And it's wild, like how much things change, right? We were talking at the end of the CrossFit Games season, and then now we're about to start a new season. Are you excited for that?
Yeah, it honestly feels like it's happening very, very quickly. And, as I say that in the same breath, I realize for my athletes, their season doesn't truly start until semifinals.
Totally.
But yeah, it just feels like, we just finished things off just a little bit ago, and now we're preparing for the Open.
Yeah. And the Open's kind of the structure of the CrossFit Games, series and leading up to that has changed a lot. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to with the new structures or with the things coming up for yourself or for the athletes?
Yeah. So with the Open, the athletes are not really too concerned. They may not be too proud of a performance per se, but for the most part, through the Open, they are all training still, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. We really just use the Open to start our training off on Friday. They get through that workout, and then we move right along. And for the majority of my athletes, their training is for the CrossFit Games. And then for some of them, their training is going to be for semifinals because they still have that obstacle that they still need to get through in order to make it to the games. So for the most part, the Open isn't anything too crazy. So as we get through the Open and get into quarterfinals, we're still trying our best not to repeat any workouts through quarterfinals, to put most of the emphasis and energy to peak for semifinals for the athletes that haven't made it to the games yet. And then the big change in the structure that I think that you're mentioning is now we're seeing for North America, and I believe South America as well, 2 semifinal locations, one on the East and one on the West, which, it's interesting to hear how they're doing it, especially on the East Coast, considering the caliber of athletes that they have over here on the East side of North America and South America versus the West side. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. At the end of the day, the ones I hope, deserve the chance to get there to the games will get there. And I'm confident in all my athletes and their abilities to make it there.
Absolutely. And you work mainly with elite level athletes at this time. I know there's kind of been a workup to that, and we'll get into coaching quite a bit. But before I guess we get there, what do you think are like the biggest differences, like in the personal enjoyment for you as a coach with working with elite athletes as compared to maybe the beginning athlete? Or is it really that different as far as the amount of fulfillment that you get from it?
That's a good question. Back in the day, I used to say that it felt more important to me to see, an athlete that's not at the highest level, hit their first ring muscle up or, get their first chest to bar pull up, because, being in the CrossFit gym industry and owning my own gym, I would see it often, and I just, really connected well with that. And then as I went through, even I would probably say this last season, Having my athletes move down to Naples and seeing them reach their goals, it almost felt as if I started to cross that line from coach to like family member in a very like not weird way, but just in a new way. It's like watching your sister or your brother out there performing, and you would do anything in the world for them. And that took on a whole new level for me during semifinals when Dallin finally made it, and then at the games with Dallin and again with Danielle at that time. Because now I'm there every single day to know their daily struggle, not just inside of the gym, but in life. Dallin and I just had a really big conversation together that we would have never had if I would have still been programming for him remotely. And so now, with that in consideration and some of the bigger plans that we have for Brute, it's like I would probably say that probably feels a little bit better to me now at this point than it is to program for someone that I truly don't have that connection with, even though I could be programming for them remotely. And I still do. I have a handful of athletes that I still program for remotely, all over the world. And and it's just hard to, compare it.
Totally. How did you know to cap the amount of clients or athletes?
Yeah.
Know how to do it. That's a hard decision, I think, as a coach and as like someone in business, is like, at what level does it get to the threshold that maybe you feel like the investment or the time isn't going to be able to be there, or the effort, or I mean, what was kind of the deciding factor for you?
That's interesting. When I first started programming and making money off of it, it was probably, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe. And I remember talking with my mentor, and at this time, he's like, "How many athletes do you want?" And I'm like, "I think I can handle 5." 'Cause I still remember, reading through my notes, flipping it over the pages, writing down the program, trying to understand what the hell I'm doing, writing down more program, and then like 2 hours passed, and I've written like 3 days worth of program. And I was like, and I'm talking to my mentor. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to get more like, how do I make money off of this? And what ends up happening, I'm like anything, like any job, is things become so second nature. It's like I look at an athlete and I can see whether they need X, Y, and Z. And already my brain understands, okay, I can apply this one, this one, and this one. So over time, I started realizing from 5 turned to 10. And I really like this feeling of feeling uncomfortable. And so I would get to like 15 athletes and feel like I have like no time in the world for them, but I'm still finding a way to get it done. And almost like it's like that feeling of like procrastinating for a test or a project in college. And it's like your best work, right? Because it's crunch time and you got to get all the stuff done. And it's like, I don't have time to be to have my mind wandering in a different direction. Like I need all my attention, all my focus on this. So I went to 15 to 25 to 45 to 55. And then at that point in time, I was like, okay, I really don't have time to be doing this anymore. And I've almost have a habit now to say, give me more, because I'm turning this into almost a full-time job for myself. And then I remember having this similar conversation with my mentor, and he goes, what do you want to do? Do you want to just have, 100 athletes and make a really good living? He's like, what is it? And it was in that point in time where I was like, and I had, at this point, I had, the teenagers coming through, Dallin and Tudor and James, and I didn't have Emma yet at this time, but I had a lot of teenagers. And that's kind of how I was known in the industry. It was like this coach that was just developing teenagers. I used to tell people like my DMs would flood with like these teens that are like, coach me. I'm like, I have this and I have that going on. I'm like, no, I can't do this. But anyway, I was like, I want to be the best in the world, whatever path that takes. And at this time, the guy that was helping me out, he had like Brett Fikowski and Cara Webb and, all these big names. And I was like, honestly, in my mind, I want to be better than you. I want to have the big names. I want people to turn to me and say like, I want to be inspired by Matt and what he's able to do. And so slowly over time, I kept chipping away and chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. And then now I focus on my 5 athletes. And then I still coach like 15 other athletes as well.
Mhm. That's not bad at all. And one of the things that I think you mentioned is like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And like being confident with being uncertain, which is also an interesting one too, right? You think that, oh, well, as I progress my job or I progress in being a coach or as an athlete, the confidence comes, but there's also a confidence like this just kind of empowerment in the uncertainty of what you are to accomplish or what is ahead of you, you know? And I think that there are those moments between where you were and where you're going that you find that wholeness and that enrichment and that assertion and like I am doing the right thing and I am in the right direction and like all my efforts going there. You kind of take a deep breath and appreciate where you are and then put your head down and keep going, you know?
It's so true. Yeah. It's, I kind of like that feeling of having to discover, I think is the best way of putting it, especially in this sport, because nothing is certain. You know, I can get someone snatched to improve by 25 pounds in a year, and the
Mhm.
snatch doesn't get tested at all. You know, it's like, you know, and then it's that in itself that keeps me entertained. I think it keeps my my attention. I think
Mhm.
it's like I'm always on my toes trying to figure out what needs to be improved. You know, what needs to be adjusted, how training needs to look from, you know, 1 month out from ending the CrossFit Games to 2 months before the CrossFit Games.
Mhm. Let's go back 10 steps. Let's learn more about Matt. Tell me kind of, I mean, like, where did you grow up? We'll start there.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, I grew up here in Naples, Florida.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Right in the
It was a very slow town. It was a very old town, and you know, kind of like what people might describe it as. It has improved. There are younger folks around here, and it was just a slow beach town, a retirement place, one would say. From you know, we have a lot of people from the Midwest, and you know, it was since we're in Florida, we got to play sports year round. You know,
Mhm.
so I was raised in a household that, you know, when baseball's done, you're playing football. When football's done, you're back to baseball. And it was like it was nonstop between me, my older brother that played the same sports, and my older sister. You know, she was cheerleading and softball.
Mhm.
Um, it was like all of the time. We're always outside. And if we had any moment where we weren't playing sports, team organized sports, uh,
Mhm.
we were competing against each other in literally anything. Baseball outside, basketball outside, like you name it, bikes, like, you know, running through trails. It never ended. And I think it was good that I had 2 older siblings, because it taught me, you know, if I keep discovering and trying to beat them, uh,
Mhm.
I do get a win every once in a while, and then as I started to grow up, those wins would start to accumulate because now I'm like the same size as my brother, or I'm bigger than my brother, and he's 3 years older than me. And so that right there was kind of, I think for me, was very important to have that competition. And there's when I see it from other athletes, I begin to understand like what made me so competitive was having my older brother and having my older sister beat
Mhm.
so often. And because I was smaller than, you know, for the majority when we were kids, I was smaller than them. I had to figure out ways to, you know, get around them. You know, if we're playing football, I have to find ways to get around my bigger brother. I have to find ways to run away from him. If we're playing basketball and, you know, he's, uh, you know, going to block me a majority of the time, I have to find a way to shoot a little bit further away from the basket, you know, so
Mhm.
he's not right on top of me. So, you know, it's little things like that, that helped with a lot of, you know, I guess making me as competitive as I could be leading into high school.
Mhm. Okay. So I like that. And probably one of the skills too that you have now that you're able to apply is that same type of a- like analyzing behavior and analyzing like what were they doing better than you or where could you go around them. And that's one of the big things about being a coach is observing, listening, watching over again and over again and over again. Like, okay, here's that fine-tuned movement, or here's where we can improve 10 seconds, right? So that probably has translated a lot. But you were a collegiate athlete, right? You played football in college.
Yep.
How was that experience for you? And then getting out, and when did you find CrossFit?
Yeah. With college football, it taught me a lot on how everyone can be coached differently. Because in football, and specifically in college football, um, the coaches' demeanors are pretty identical to the way we see them in high school football.
Mhm.
They're tough, they're in your face. They could care less about how you feel as long as you're performing, which is a very big difference from high school ball. They'll care about you if you're doing well. They'll bend the rules for you if you're doing well. Uh,
Mhm.
but if things are not going well and your team is not winning or you're not performing as you should be on the field, you can see there's a lot of stress from these coaches. Because it is their job. And so when you're sitting down, in the meeting room, we have kids from all over the world, really. I mean, we had kids from Germany and Canada, up in the Midwest. And it was like, I'm watching a coach one way and seeing how everyone's responding.
Mhm.
And some kids couldn't handle it and left just as quickly as they came. Other kids were able to, be a little bit more resilient and get through and finish school. I remember my year we had I think 13 kids from Florida that went up to Central Michigan, and then when I graduated, we graduated with three. So and weird thing, it was me and my two roommates. It
Oh.
was wild. Yeah, it was crazy. And so that right there, I began to understand and dig deeper into like, how do people like to be coached? And I really didn't understand what I wanted to do, you know, out of college. I have a degree in broadcasting and a minor in journalism. So
Okay.
it's kind of like, I thought for sure I was just going to be talking about sports all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and I quickly became bored of it because it was like, all I know in life is sports. I don't know anything really,
Mhm.
like, significant at least. And then I discovered out of college that I actually enjoy helping people, and I figured that out when I was, I had a sales job, and I was also a high school football coach at the same time,
Mhm.
and I really enjoyed like the fact that my knowledge could help these kids, win,
Mhm.
make them feel good about themselves. And it was right around that time where I was like, you know what, uh, I I mean, this is what, 2011 is when I first got to a CrossFit gym. It just so happened that when I was coaching,
Mhm.
the camera guy owned CrossFit Naples. So the gym that I own currently right now.
Gotcha.
And so he was like, come on in. We just opened up the doors like a few months ago.
Mhm.
And that process of not being good, but learning is
Mhm.
what kept me. And that's kind of what hooked me in. It wasn't really the fact that, you know, this old lady grandma next to me was beating me or, my buddy next to me was competing with me. It was like, okay, I'm not really good at any of these things and everything's pretty new to me for the most part.
Mhm.
And I want to be better. And so that's what kind of got me going.
Were you able to pick up sports like pretty naturally athletic, like quickly?
Yeah, so I'm a very quick learner when I see things.
Mhm.
I can see it and then just apply them rather quickly, to be good enough,
Okay.
right? And then this is a part of me, and I think a lot of athletes that are very good at what they do have this quality as well. I get very obsessed with it,
Mhm.
um, and I will drill and drill and drill, and it has to be like perfect technique. It can't just be like just getting by,
Mhm.
it can't just be me learning this play. I have to learn, like everything, and I can't just know my position. I got to know their position and that position and that position, just in case they go down. I got to fill in, and someone comes in for me, and so that right there was like, um, I don't know. I can't even begin to tell you how or why. It is like that, but that's just how it is. And even to today, like, I mean, I was watching Dallin at Wadapalooza, and you know, we both have high expectations for him. And when I see him getting beat, I almost feel like I feel the same pain as him.
Mhm.
And it's almost this feeling of like I'm embarrassed for him
Mhm.
and I have to explain to him that I won't let this shit happen again. It's like it's almost as if I'm out there is like the same type of approach that I have with all of my athletes. Um, and I don't know, I don't really know what it is about, you know, my upbringing or who I was around or whatnot that kind of just drilled that into me.
Totally. And in my head, I'm kind of thinking, you know, of my own reflection or the athletes we work with is it's like, do you think that that's a learned behavior or a taught behavior or just like an innate desire and hunger and like way of approaching things? And I don't know if I have the answer for that. What do you think?
Yeah. You know what's funny is like growing up, like if my brother or my sister would get in trouble and I, you know, I'm in the house or in the room somewhere,
Laughing at them.
yeah, like laughing at them, but understanding that the communication that was going on between my parents and them
Mhm.
made it affected them a certain way, and then vice versa. My, you know, my brother and my sister back to my parents, um, and that is such a big deal to me. Like communicating with my athletes, and
Mhm.
honestly, like really anybody. And I tell my athletes all the time, like I'll often think about what I'm about to say several times because I'm kind of playing out what the conversation is going to be going. Like, how is this going to affect him or her? And what am I going to get out of them? You know, because often when I say things, I'm expecting things already to happen a certain way. Uh,
Mhm.
and so when they don't happen that way, and I can tell you right now with Danielle, that happened a lot in the very beginning. She's,
Mhm.
uh, you know, her upbringing in sport had me learn a different way of coaching. Uh,
Mhm.
and the way it was with the teenagers was completely different. And so there was a big learning curve for me to understand, like, you know, I thought this was the correct way, you know, of coaching, and it really wasn't. And having to pick up the communication between her and I versus, you know, me and Emma versus me and Fee and James and Dallin, that was the part that, you know, it both kept me intrigued, but also at the same time, you know, I was almost at a loss because I was like, I don't even know where to start with her. And then come to find out it's a lot simpler than I thought.
Isn't that interesting? Like, and they sometimes you just gotta like level with people, right? Like, how do we just get on the same level so we can see things from the same level of perception and like, you know, it's like a give and a take, right? Come to a compromise. I won't say it's a sacrifice. I don't think that, you know, in these types of professional relationships or in a coaching or managing situation, you need to necessarily sacrifice and fully give up something, but you do need to be able to compromise and give and take and be willing to adapt, right?
Mhm.
And
Definitely.
and evolve. And if you don't adapt, then you know what I mean? There are times when it's not a good fit. And I'm sure you've experienced that. And you know, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, like one of the terrible things about coaching is having to fire a client or recognize that, you know what, you guys are not a good fit. We're not the best, and this is best for everyone to go different ways,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Mhm.
do you think that we'll come back to that, but do you ever get like emotional burnout from the amount that you invest in your athletes, or do you feel like you're pretty good at finding that reciprocal relationship and that healthy just kind of way of taking care of yourself in that sense?
So when I started getting more and more athletes, this was something that I had to work on quite a bit. My ability to shut things off when it was time, you
Mhm.
know. And to be honest with you, this type of question kind of affected my relationships um, with, you know, some girlfriends in the past where I couldn't shut things off.
Mhm.
To me, it seems so natural to, you know, I never felt like I was working, number 1, you know, and I was like, "Hey, I can shut my computer and just, like, do stuff, and then I can open it up," and next thing I know, I'm, like, working at, like, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, and, like, it just was a 24/7 job,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize what I was doing to myself. But now it is very, very, very important to me that, I have balance, because I can get like that. You know, and these are some of the things that I've just done is if there's any communication with my athletes that I'm programming for remotely, it is all getting done through this one software that we use to program the workouts. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, I never encourage them to Instagram to send me DMs. I'll never hand out my number to them as well because it's like I can't just constantly be flooded all the time from every single channel. And that's something that I would recommend to every coach is, just one location. When I'm on here, my attention is there. The other thing is if I see a question come in at like, I don't know, past like 7 p.m., it's not getting responded to. It doesn't matter how vital it is, unless it's like, an SOS, then in which case I go solve it. But I will gladly go to bed, wake up, let them know like, hey, I didn't get to see this last night, but boom, 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 here's your answer. Treat it like a normal job, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Even though I could be programming for guys in Australia, or I don't know, Dubai, it doesn't mean that they get my attention because it's 7 a.m. over there and it's 6 p.m. over here. Those are two very, very important things that I hold, to a constant standard, especially here in town. When my athletes are here, I say, guys, you have my attention Monday through Friday. If I come in on Saturday, it's either because we have a competition that's coming up, or I have nothing going on. I want to come back and hang out and work out with you guys. So that's how I would say that I keep that, my emotions at bay. It's something that I had to grow into, and I really had to try hard to find that balance. And it's something I continue to work on even still to this day.
Totally. And like just setting those healthy boundaries, right? And even recognizing that you might not know what your boundaries are or what you are or aren't capable of as a coach, and that's for people who have been in the industry, who haven't been in the industry, who are thinking about it. But setting up like time blocks, right? Like you're saying, like Monday through Friday, and communicating that clearly to your clients. Hey, I'm out by 7 p.m. If you message me after that, it's on silent, no disrespect, but I'll get back to you, after 7 a.m. And, I think that that's something in any service industry we overlook, because when you are passionate about it and when it is your life and you eat it, live it, and breathe it, it's easy to go above and beyond. But it can lead to burnout, and it can lead to compromising the value that you're bringing, your integrity, your services, your just all of it, Speaking of which, when did you start coaching? So if we kind of go back, you got into CrossFit Naples. You loved it. You found that drive and that hunger within yourself. It wasn't really about anyone else. When did that translate into kind of this desire or this crave for coaching?
Yeah. So I remember having a conversation after one of my workouts, and I used to work out at like 6 a.m. at CrossFit Naples. It was back again, I think like 2011. And I was just curious about, and I like to tinker around. I was just sitting down with the owner, and I was like, what does it take to run one of these things? And the way he described it didn't really sound very difficult. So I connected with one of my friends at that time, and I was like, let's just do this. Let's open up a gym. We've been in the strength and conditioning realm for so many years now. This will be rather easy. So in 2013, we opened up a different gym, North Naples CrossFit. That was 2013. And then, group classes, 2013, 14, 15. 2015 is when I started programming for individuals. And at that time, I was getting coached as well. And so, me naturally, I wanted to understand, why am I having to sit on an air assault bike for so long? What is this going to do for me? I have no idea. And so I asked the guy that was coaching me at the time, I was like, would you, take a chance on me and just mentor me? And he started to teach me a lot of things, as well as training Think Tank as well with Max Alhaj. He's a good dude. I just started learning as much as I could. So that was 2015. I'm still coaching classes at that time. I start coaching my sister and at that time, one of our members in the gym, which was also one of our coaches. And I was like, hey, I'll coach for you for free. Let's just see how it goes. And both of them started performing very well. And those two helped me out so much with, I don't know, a lot of like the initial bumps and bruises of, too much volume, focusing too much on strength, not focusing on nutrition. Like there's so many things. Those are just three that just come to my head that it's so important if you're wanting to take the leap and get into this realm of writing workouts for people, that you have to have two like guinea pigs that are willing to be open with you, uh,
Mhm.
be very transparent on how they feel about the programming, because it is much, much, much more than just writing down workouts. It's like, and this is one thing that even in my experience when I was training to want to compete with CrossFit, I was like, this is so boring. Like,
Mhm.
I can't possibly, last week I did 8 sets of 3-minute echo bike, with a rest. And then now I have to do 12 sets. Like, this is horrendous. So to me, as I'm like echo biking, I'm like, how would I disguise this so I can essentially do the same thing, but it kind of looks like wrapped up nicely and pretty. So my brain isn't just like wandering around for, I don't even know, like what felt like an hour. Um, and I think that is the part that started to separate me from my coach.
Mhm.
Uh, what separated me from the next coach and the next coach, because in essence, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. If you need to improve your aerobic foundation, writing it down and it reads as 10 sets of 3 minutes at a Z2 pace, it's going to do it.
Mhm.
Not every athlete wants to do that, So uh,
Mhm.
I started to take a little bit more time in understanding, how can I keep an athlete entertained and get them to do their work at the same time. Uh,
Mhm.
and so, right around, I'd say like 2017, maybe, is when I got my first paying client. uh,
Okay. So
yeah.
after a couple of years.
Yeah. So it was like 2 years. And my first paying client was like a skier, like a long distance skier. And then my second one was a smoke jumper,
Mhm.
like a firefighter. First two paying clients, I'm not even having anyone do CrossFit really. Uh,
Mhm.
it's just stuff that would help them in their sport. And I think that just, again, helped me develop more as a CrossFit coach. Um, yeah, but then, I don't know, 2017, I slowly started to accumulate more athletes. That was when there was regionals. Uh,
Mhm.
and from there, I just slowly started to catch up and, I don't know, gather a little bit more speed.
Totally. Was that also kind of the same trajectory of your realization that you wanted to coach more than be an athlete?
Yeah. So what was happening was, and I don't know, I feel like there's so many people out there that are in this predicament, right? So I'm out of college. I have a gym that is barely doing well because my priorities are just way out of alignment.
Mhm.
I'm putting all this energy into being an athlete and half the energy being a business owner. And so I was having this like dilemma where it's like, you know, I remember having these conversations with my coach saying, I don't know where to put my time and energy. It's like there's no money in this sport, and CrossFit, and I feel like I'm not spending enough time as an owner of this gym.
Mhm.
And he was like, "Well, just find a way." I'm like, "Man, I'm barely finding a way right now. I don't like. I need the answer." Like, and so I remember 2 weeks later, I was like, "I can't do this." So I was
Mhm.
like, "Scrapping that. Let me just do CrossFit gym. Let me figure out how to program for athletes as well."
Mhm.
I remember writing workouts. Like I can still pull up my Google Sheets and just seeing my workouts right now, and sending it off to all these athletes. And it was, I think, right around that time. I think like I don't know, like 2015, that I committed to that. And so I was like, okay, I'm gym owner and I'm full time online coach,
Mhm.
no longer athlete.
And really kind of like aligning out an identity or aligning out just, being honest with yourself. Yeah, it's a nice idea to be an athlete, but is it truly something that you can sink your teeth into and make come to fruition and willing to respect the process of becoming and unbecoming and rebecoming?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people see thanks to like social media. And I mean, I think people have probably done this all the time, but see like, yeah, that's here. That's where I want to go. But they like don't see everything
No,
with it,
no.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
you have to be obsessed with it too. And like
mhm,
the same energy that I put into coaching my athletes, I wasn't willing to put that same time into myself to be there. And I know it's like, I mean, when you look at a new sport, like I think like pickleball, I'm like, okay, I could be good at this. I don't
mhm,
have enough energy in me to, wake up in the morning at 5, drill, 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 drill. And I understand the type of effort it will be, but I also get like, I don't want to be in that mindset of obsession. and I can easily slip into that.
Mhm.
So now I keep things fun, and because I keep things fun, I'm less competitive, and it's like, and because I'm less competitive, I'm not talking as much shit to my athletes when I'm winning or losing to them. And so there's a lot of good things that come with it as far
Mhm.
as like being a great friend. Uh,
Mhm.
but
It's
you
probably
know,
cool.
it's super helpful, but also at the same time, like when you understand how much effort goes into it, you're like, no, I'm just doing this one for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of brings up the point of, one of the things I mentioned in the beginning, the theme, kind of overall theme is confidence, right? Confidence as a person, confidence in human, or in your athletes, in your human experiences. And, one of, I guess, my questions to you that I did really intentionally write down, which I don't typically do for these, is as far as like mood and confidence of a coach, you impact the collective. You ensure that you're showing up as your best self for yourself first, and then you do it for them and for your athletes to instill the mood and confidence within them. How do you, as an individual, do that? I mean, I know you've kind of been through your things, but in what ways do you ensure that your mood and confidence is taken care of first so that you can go in the gym and deliver the best results possible to your athletes?
Yeah. It really doesn't matter sometimes to me how stressed I am, whether I don't have a lot of sleep, whether I've eaten or not. The moment I walk in that gym, it like, and I could be the most stressed and most tired person in that room by far, hands down. I just flip that switch.
Mhm.
It's just who I am. Like, I don't, there's not much that goes into it besides that. It's like, you know, I remember feeling this way when I started coaching group classes, and someone would ask me for, a moment of my time to help them with kipping. And 30 minutes later, I'm like, everything in my power has to be perfection. And I'm like, and as I'm coaching it, I'm thinking about how drained I am and
Mhm.
how tired I am. And I'm like, this just needs to be perfect, not just okay, but, they need to leave here thinking like, I got this. And so, that's, I guess that right there is something that, I don't know, something that just instilled in me. And now coming to today, with my athletes, you know, it's whether I'm, and I guess we're all like this. There's never a moment throughout, or no, not a moment. There's never times where it's just like I'm so good with myself outside of my career, um, that I'm gonna be even better person inside of my career. Those times are fairly rare, and it's like they come, of course, but they're not there all the time. And
Mhm.
I will tell you this, like these people depend on me for a lot of things. I have 5 athletes that this is their livelihood. They gave up so much to
Mhm.
move down here to trust me with with this part of their life and this part of their journey. Like that right there, I guess me feeling like I failed them is what fuels me, because I hate losing more than I love winning. And it's almost like a fear as if I didn't do too much. I haven't done enough, excuse me, for them. And so that's kind of like my fire and the purpose and the reason why I do what I do is, if I know them as a person, and they have this much trust in me and they depend on me to help them be the best they can be in their career, then I'm going to give them everything I can. It doesn't matter what my life looks like outside of work. And that's just how it is. And it's a feeling that I know these athletes see it and understand it, on a daily basis. And so there's that kind of like, you know, they don't they don't have that worry that I won't be there for them.
Totally. Yeah, and to be able to, have an athlete trust in you completely is a pretty honorable thing, but it's also a lot of responsibility. Like you're saying, like that's all on your shoulders, that's all within your heart. Um, what do you feel like? So you have athletes come to you, and this is something that not a lot of people do. I think this is something that's kind of growing within the industry, within like camps or underdogs or mayhem or people, getting the opportunity to actually go somewhere and train, pick
Mhm.
up their life and go. What is kind of, if you have one, the mantra or the credo for when you're like bringing an athlete into the community? What is that umbrella that you run underneath? Do you have one?
Um, I mean, the first thing is once I've made that decision, I'm already treating them like family.
Mhm.
I've typically the way it goes is I'll let my athletes know kind of where I'm at. I like to be very transparent with them. The least amount of surprises, the better. And so I'll have that conversation with them, just kind of pick their brain on how they feel and what they see. And, for the most part, all of my athletes, besides one of them, so four of the five have the same agent with Cooper Marsh.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's, it's been a pretty simple process with them.
Mhm.
I tell my athletes now, I have one more spot available because I have five, three girls, two guys. And I'm like, if there's another guy that shows up, I'd be happy to work with him. Now I
Mhm.
say that knowing that it's a very difficult task for me to make up my mind on someone because
Mhm.
we have such a great thing happening. But, once they come in, I treat them like their family. If they need anything, I'm there for them. Not only me, but the other athletes as well. And we have such a great group of people in there and even group of coaches as well that, immediately I hope that they feel like, they're taken care of. They don't have to worry about, am I doing this for them? Am I doing this? Am I with this, guy or girl because, I know what type of clout they carry and, all the other BS that comes behind it. That's kind of necessary in what they do currently right now as well. Uh,
Mhm.
and so there's that. I guess like the biggest thing is, and it makes me like have the warm fuzzies because with Danielle, I
You can see
tried.
it on your face.
I really did try, to make her know that like we're here for her.
Yeah.
There's no other propaganda. Brute is not trying to, use Danielle to better ourselves.
Mhm.
Where I'm here because I want to coach you, and I've got your back. There's no one in here of our athletes and our coaches are ever going to do anything to make you feel anything less than a phenomenal human. And
Mhm.
that's, I think, is just like one very very important thing is like we'll coach the human first, and then the athlete is going to be another one because I mean, being around a lot of high level athletes, there's a lot, oftentimes there's like two different shades. It's like there's the athlete and a very competitive athlete and like they're hard on themselves and there's a lot of things that they're worried about, and then there's the human side of them when they step out and you see very different people. And so being able to connect with that human side of them and being like, hey, you know let's, in this process, let's grow closer together.
Mhm.
uh, and this will help us because trust is such a big thing in what we do. Transparency is such a big thing in what we do. I need to know if you have any aches and pains, if you're going through anything like mentally, like blocks in training. I need to know these things because the more I know, the more progress we can make at a quicker rate as well. And so, being able to have that trust, it takes a lot of time, because sometimes short amount, sometimes longer amount. But to have an athlete come in and know that, we're there for them, I think is probably the most important thing for us as Brute as a company, and our coaches as well.
I love that. That's very, very respectable too, because I don't know, you're playing with people's time. You know what I mean? Like you're not playing with it, but you're responsible for it, right? And time is like one of the most valuable currencies we have.
Mhm.
And to be able to recognize that the impact that you have as a coach is so much bigger than just like the PR. It's so much bigger than the upcoming competition. Like you're literally helping shape this person to be the best that they can be both on and off the floor. Um, and that alignment is extremely important, as you're saying. So that's pretty cool about Brute. How did you get lined up with Brute? Like, how did that partnership come about?
Yeah. So Nick Fowler was, I was working with his company, and he started coaching. He got linked up with Matt Bruce and Michael Caju back in the day. I don't know, I want to say like 2015, 2016, one of those around there. And he was like, "Hey, we're gonna open up remote programming." They saw how my company is working. They're currently a template program. We're going to introduce this. So he's like, "I want you to come with me. Let's go through the hiring process and get these people on board." And that was when, I don't know, 2017, maybe. I don't even know the timeline, but currently they opened up remote programming, and it started to, slowly start to pick up steam and just take off. Yeah. And now, are we at 23 now? Yeah. I remember having this conversation with all of my remote athletes that I thought, my teenagers, really. So it was James, Sprague, Dallin, Emma, Tudor Magda, and Cole Graysherber at the time. And I was like, Cole was the only one that was like, he's a little bit older, like a year older than Dallin. So he was already aged out of teenage division. And I was like, guys, I've got the okay from Matt Bruce. He was the owner of Brute. And I was like, we're going to make headquarters down in Naples, Florida. I'm like, I don't have a location yet. I don't have equipment yet. Let's not even think about that. Just commit that you're able to move down. And like, Dallin and Emma were the first ones that were like, hell yeah. And then James was on board. Right. And then, so at this time, I wasn't even coaching Emma as an in-person athlete. I was still coaching a remote athlete. And we went over the CrossFit Games for her rookie year. And that was when I met Fee. And it made the connection that Cooper and Fee and Emma, and Dallin were all connected. And, very brief with Fee. After the CrossFit Games, Fee reached out through Cooper and was like, "Hey, I'd love to get coached." Perfect. All of a sudden, like, everyone's starting to plan to move down. Fee still hasn't moved down yet, but everyone's planning to move down. And it was basically just scrapping things together. It was like, last year was such a building year, like literally building stuff inside of the gym, and like figuratively trying to figure out how a training camp works, building the process of the training camp, finding things that, that I thought would have worked, and then crashing and like trying to apologize. Like, I didn't realize it was going to happen like this. Let's just try it a different way. Let's try it this way. And then now we have this process in place where, as far as the day-to-day training goes, that process is smoothed out pretty well. But now we have all these other things with Brute that are starting to blossom, and all these other opportunities in Brute that are starting to blossom, where it's like, okay, now I'm ready to put all my eggs into this basket here, and get the ship going in one direction.
Totally. And you guys recently hosted a training camp. That's true. Right? Was that the first one?
That was the first one of 2023. So Brute was really known for these training camps throughout the year. I think we ran like 3 or 4 of them throughout the year, where we would go travel out. A bunch of athletes would come in. Now, this was back in the day when we had like, Mike Caju was pretty much like our flow master. Nick Sorrell was our gymnastics coach. Chris Henshaw was our aerobic capacity coach. We had Adrian Conway as like our mental mindset coach. Nick Fowler as our strength coach. Like, so that was what Brute was known for, was like taking these like masterminds in their given field and bringing them together and like sharing their knowledge out. Now we're starting to get our way back into it, and I absolutely love it. I love these training camps so much. Just to be able to get in front of people that are like sitting on the edge of their seat to want to know more and more and more. It's a much different feeling than being inside of a CrossFit gym and people feel like they're forced to be in there. It's like they have to be in there. And it's like, as much as you want to talk about the, how to improve in this workout and like how to move faster and how to move more efficient, people really don't care. They just want to be in there because it's a break for an hour for whatever reason. It could be from their kids. It could be from work. It could be, maybe they're ditching one habit to do another habit. It's like, rarely ever are they in there to be like, I want to be better at ring muscle ups. I want to go from 1 ring muscle up to 3. But
Yeah.
at these camps, it's like that. And it's like for us as coaches in these camps with Brute, it gives us the ability to like open up our mind and be like, this is how we do things, and this is why we do things. And this is why it's going to get you better at, at X, Y, and Z at the same time.
Mhm. I love that. And there's also like this cool kind of thing on the coaching side, and I'm sure you can relate to this more, that you learn about yourself, right? Might be a big thing, might be a real little thing, right? But kind of like the different people who come in and like the approaches and the attitudes, and as they change throughout the years, it's really unique and eye-opening for you too, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, what was maybe something you got out of the last camp that you guys hosted?
I think a lot of it comes from our feedback forums.
Mhm.
Trying to figure out, I mean, for me, I just want to make the best camp experience possible, you
Mhm.
know. And so there's a lot of the feedback forums for me that's like, okay, I just want to go to the negative portions to see what we can improve upon.
Mhm.
Um, and every time we get through a camp, I just feel like, man, we could have done things so much better. And it was amazing to me that it's some things that look like chaos to me, to
Mhm.
others, it's like, it's like a smooth sail, like on, a nice quiet day on the ocean. It's like, I had
Mhm.
no idea, you know, in instances. And again, like when I'm communicating my thoughts to people, when I'm communicating through our lectures,
Mhm.
the way I see it is not often the way other people see it, or the way I say it is not how people are picturing it, so it's a little bit different in my brain. So trying to understand the best way to communicate with these people, the best way to communicate, whatever knowledge I have that could be most beneficial to them, is always a very interesting part to me. And so I guess the biggest takeaway, um, I don't know, I would probably say, um, understanding where we can continue to improve, in our lectures, in our breakout groups, and just in the flow, I think, of the camps, just so we can make the best possible experience. Because at the end of the day, the camps are, for us, it's a way for us to reach out to athletes. It's a way to give them a very positive imprint of Brute and how we coach and how we communicate with our athletes, so that they can leave there, do much better in whatever wherever part of their journey that they are in their fitness journey, but also, you know, to allow them to spread the word, because at the end of the day, it is a business, and if we can get that free marketing with people because of how much they enjoyed our camp,
Mhm.
it's definitely a vital part of our livelihood.
Totally, and, like, word of mouth marketing is still the most valuable, right? Where you can actually, like, trust someone. I think the internet has, reviews and things like that and people posting and influencers, but at the end of the day, like, if someone genuinely gets results, their life has changed, they feel positive and inspired by it, and, like, they go to their friend and like, "Yeah, hey, I really want this for you too. I want you to grow in this way, and I want you to feel these same feelings, and I want you to kick ass the way I got to kick ass."
Mhm.
Those are like the best recommendations. And I think that some people in some businesses, and even just like coaching in general, forget about that, like how valuable that resource is. And like you're saying, at the end of the day, it is free marketing, but it is also some of the best referrals in, because it's like that like-minded, like, wow, I want them to help me too, you know?
Gosh, yeah, yeah, you can't beat that. It's like, the way I think about it is like, I love going out to eat, and so like the way I see it is when these athletes are like, when their parents are visiting, they're like, "Hey, Matt, where do we go for X, Y, and Z?" I'm like, "Oh, dude, you gotta go to this taco spot."
Oh, here,
When
here.
you when you get there, I'm not even a big quesadilla guy, but the quesadillas here are fire. It's the same thing. It's like, "Oh, how's the Brute camp?" It's like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, it was boom, 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 boom," and all of a sudden, it's like, we have another person that wants to go check out our Brute camp, or even check out what we do as a company.
I love that. So we do have a question in here. Would Brute ever want to do a camp for coaches? The coaching team at Brute is legit. Would be awesome to learn more about that structure and roles within the team. Is that something you guys currently offer? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's not something that we currently offer, but it is something that we will be offering.
Cool.
It's going to be part of my roles and responsibilities, and it's actually a question that we asked our last camp if, coaches camp was something that they'd be interested in. So I would say, look out for that to come. It's definitely something that I would love to do,
Mhm.
to dive in, because, oftentimes athletes, they really don't care. It's just like, give me something that will make me better. Don't explain too much, just do it, Danielle, right? And other times, athletes, they want to be, they want to know the whys behind it,
Mhm.
to help them improve in their own way.
Mhm.
And so we would love nothing more but to, have a camp dedicated just for coaches. And so, 2023, our goal in 2023 is to have a calendar set out with all of our camps, um, all of our camps and all of our locations, so that, you'll know and well in advance where things will be happening, and what type of camp it'll be.
That's awesome. That is a really exciting offering.
Mhm.
Uh, as far as training, what would you say that are three things you wish people knew, respected? I don't know how to say that, or just knew or respected about training. I mean, you've seen people through the spectrum of sport. You've seen them at the beginning, teaching them their first double under, all the way to, getting your athletes on the podium. What do you
Yeah.
think you wish people knew?
I think the first thing is, training does not have to be overcomplicated. Don't try to overcomplicate things that can be very simple. And this is what I mean. Like, as you start to improve, you don't need more volume as you start to improve. You don't need to learn everything in one day. Like, let time be. In some instances, and this is something it's a conversation I have to have with one of my athletes that didn't have any sport background coming
Mhm.
in, right? So she didn't have any team sport or one-on-one sport or field sport background at all. And so whenever she has to learn a new skill, that involves, let's say, running and jumping, of that nature, it takes a little bit longer. Her process takes like 3, 4 weeks to pick something up. Whereas another athlete, let's say like Fee, played, field sports growing up, she can pick up something really quickly.
Mhm.
Uh, and so don't, keep things simple. Don't, there's going to be times where, it's gonna just going to be, there's going to be moments where it's going to take a little bit of time to get these skills down. Um, the other thing is, don't underestimate the importance of nutrition. These are conversations that I have with my top athletes
Mhm.
frequently. I'll give you an example. Emma, her first trip at the games was 147 pounds. Her, our big emphasis was strength, and we
Mhm.
didn't really put enough focus on the fact that she was already very strong. Like, the girl snatched like 100 or 200 pounds. She was clean and jerking like 240 or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And so we're like, okay, we got to be strong, got to be strong. And little did I know that 147 pounds for someone of her size is a little too heavy, right?
Yeah.
So she needs to be hovering around like a 141, 140, like 142.
Mhm.
It needs to be better aerobically. And again, that's just one example. I
Mhm.
can put an example with Dallin, with James, with Fee, like the whole nine.
Mhm.
So don't underestimate nutrition. Like, figure out, like, have this conversation with yourself and say, what do I struggle with the most? Right? It's like, if it's gymnastics and it's aerobic, uh, if you lose a pound of weight, you will be faster in your mile. Like, think about that. It's like, if you need to be a better runner, lose
Mhm.
a little bit of weight and you're going to run better. You don't even have to train to be a better runner. It's
Mhm.
like, but again, it comes down to this. It's like, understand who you are as an athlete. If you're a lighter athlete already, a smaller athlete, um, you know, that is probably not going to be as important as eating enough food. So,
Mhm.
the nutrition is going to be a really, really big thing. And then I guess like the third most important thing is, um, listen to your body. Don't avoid the signs that your body's giving you. If you're feeling something nagging, and it's a constant nag, let's say like a nagging shoulder, figure out. And if you don't know how to figure it out, like, tell someone that it's bothering you, because it will turn into something. A bum knee, and
Mhm.
this is like the number one thing that I see from CrossFitters all the time. It's like, I've my knee is hurting me, but then when I warm up, it feels fine. It's
Mhm.
like, well, that's only going to last for so long until it's bothering you so much you can barely squat. Let's
Mhm.
figure out, like, if it's bothering you for more than 2 days, take a step back and figure it out. Because if you keep going, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you can barely squat, well, you know what you're not going to be able to do at all for the next like 3 or 4 weeks? Squat.
Mhm.
So we can jump ahead of this thing and, figure out for whatever reason why the knee is bothering you. You only have to take it easy for, a week,
Mhm.
as opposed to now you have an injury and you're having to take a lot more time. And so those are things that I always have to have conversations with my athletes about, being transparent with me, so that I can make them better quicker.
For sure. Do you think that that's a little, it's kind of the injury thing. Do you think that's a little bit of an ego thing, or that's a I don't know any better, or no one's ever told me to slow down and ask questions type thing?
Yeah, I think it's a fear thing. I think it's like this, and this is how I was told by one of my athletes is, I didn't want to tell you because I wanted to keep my program the same. I didn't want my program to change. And I was just like, well, it's going to change now. So we can't avoid this right now. It's like, that is it right there. And then I would probably say it happens a lot with younger, like teenagers. It
Mhm.
happens a lot. The older they get, the more they're like, nope, this is bothering me. Cut it off. It's like any reason to get out of squats. Not squatting today.
Well,
These teenagers, like they just haven't, they just don't understand enough. They haven't been through it yet. 16, 17, 18 years old. They don't
mhm.
know what it's like, to do stuff like that. And then get to the age of like 26, 27, 28 and be like, this is still nagging me.
Right. Well, I love the recommendations. I love the thoughts, you guys. There's a ton of really good information in here from Matt. Um, Matt, is there anything else you want to touch on? You feel like that people knew? Anything else you guys are doing at Brute Strength you guys want to talk about? Um, anything else in
Mhm.
there before we go?
Not really. 2023 is going to be, I'm very excited about Brute Strength in 2023. There's some big changes coming around the corner that we're excited to announce. And I think in 2023, uh, whatever people think about Brute Strength, whether they know what it is, don't know what it is, you know, it'll have a much different feel,
Mhm.
to it coming in 2023, and it's something that we're very, very excited to get, moving forward.
Mhm.
And I think, for the most part, this is something I say all the time is, whatever athlete that you guys, follow, enjoy listening to and enjoy watching is, support them. If nothing else, support them on their accounts. Comment on their posts, send them questions. This is, as much as you love seeing them outside performing at some of these competitions, they need your support, in whatever capacity. If they have a code, use the code. It's like that's how you can support them. It's like if you're looking for a pair of headphones and use their code to support them. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, again, I want nothing but the best out of these athletes. I want these athletes to retire and only do things that they want to do once they leave this sport. Um, and so in the direction that the sport is going and currently where it's at right now, it needs that from the audience. It needs that from the fans. Don't be shy to comment. Don't be shy to DM them.
Mhm.
Um, if it's not inappropriate, they will definitely DM you back. They'll comment back. Those are all very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a big aspect. I mean, you guys heard Matt talking about it earlier when he approaches an athlete that he coaches the human first. Right? So don't get so wrapped up and lost in the social media or the following them as a fan that you forget that they're a real human too. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's the whole reason why we started this podcast was because it was like, how can we get people to connect with these people just as if they were passing them on the street or I guess a little more formally, to stop and have a conversation with them is that, they at the end of the day, they're not a show pony. They're a human. You know what I mean? And they do work with sponsors and they do have people that and companies and products that they use and believe in. But, also remember that if you want to be just like them or you want to, model things after them, that ask them. support them, be there for them. It will go a long way. And one of the conversations I had with someone at Wadapalooza, they were there for the first time. And I was like, hey, how's the event going? And they're like, wow, CrossFit seems so unique in the environment and the community before you get here. And then you get there and you realize, you see that as athletes walking around, and it's not so big that you have, 40 people of paparazzi like following an athlete.
Mm.
There are definitely some athletes that, that you need to respect their space, and like, you need to respect everyone's space. But, they're like, it's still small and intimate enough that you can have those personal conversations and relations with people. And so that's another thing too. I think that don't just support them online and like get out at the events and go scream and yell for them and do the meet and greets and have fun with it. And, make those memories with people that, may seem like kind of the untouchables online.
Yeah. And you said it, you said it perfectly. It's like they're humans. It just happens that, CrossFit is the career, and I know it makes their day whenever people, are, asking them questions. They can feel like they're more useful than just going out there and just like robots working out on the floor, taking pictures with them, so on and so forth. So, keep, I would say, like, don't ever be afraid. And, I remember as a kid growing up, I would go to spring baseball games. And I remember like Derek Jeter was one of my favorite athletes growing up, and he'd come here to Fort Myers and play games. And I remember I was so nervous to say hello. And one of the coaches like saw my nervousness, and he was like, Derek, come over here. And we just had this like conversation with like this 9-year-old. And I was like in awe. But in that moment, I was like, wow, this guy is like just as normal as I am. It's like, yeah, he's doing spectacular things on the floor. And it's amazing to see him, in a full like pinstripe outfit for the Yankees. But at the end of the day, I was like, oh, wow, okay. And it just opened up a whole new door for me. And then I was just like pestering people all the time.
Can I shake your hand?
Yeah, for real. For real.
Well, perfect. Well, if you guys see Matt out there too, make sure to see him. Follow the journey throughout the season with him and the athletes. Follow Brute Strength. Matt's handle for our audio listeners who can't see it on the screen is Hey Coach Matt. Matt is spelled with 2 T's. You can follow Brute Strength. How do people, so you're not currently taking on clients, but at the same time, how does someone get involved with Brute Strength? Do they come to a camp? Do they do remote coaching template?
So the easiest way is currently the easiest way is going to be to reach out to our Instagram handle, Brute Strength Training. And from there, everything that's fielded, we do have phenomenal coaches that are taking on athletes, even though I'm not taking on athletes. As a coaching staff, we all communicate and we run ideas past each other. And so, if you want to get linked up with Brute, we have our one-on-one coaching side, and we have our templated side programming as well, which is going to be going through a revamp here in the next coming months. So, look out for that. And then also our website is going to be going through a major rehaul. So what you see on the website currently is not going to be what you'll be seeing in the next coming months. But there is someone on the other side answering whatever questions you have on that website. So, and as always, as Alex mentioned, you can reach out to me, and I'd be gladly to lead you in the right direction and help answer whatever questions you may have.
Totally. I love that. And then as far as if anyone's in Florida, do you guys do drop-ins, or can anyone come to the gym? How does that work?
So through the Brute Gym, you can drop into CrossFit Naples, which happens to be 4 doors down from Brute. The Brute drop-in, because of the size of our location, it's not the biggest. And we constantly have athletes in there. It's not something that we advertise as far as dropping into Brute, but CrossFit Naples is a place that you can, drop into, take a class, pop your head over to Brute. It's 4 doors down. Say what's up to the team. Say what's up to me. And I'm over there every day. I can help answer whatever questions you may have.
Cool. And you guys can see the big beard, the full beard in the live flesh. So for our visual audio people, that probably sounds weird, but Matt's got some great shaping here on his face. So we're excited for you, Matt. Super, super excited to just kind of follow on the journey. Again, you guys make sure to go follow Matt Torres. thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. I hope you guys are walking away with a lot of really good nuggets about this, whether you're a coach, an athlete, maybe someday you want to be that person who works with Coach Matt. But nonetheless, thanks for tuning into the Swole Friends podcast, and we will catch you later. Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.